All right, everybody, welcome back to Pack Talk Podcast, episode number 63. We're going to be talking today about some topics, giving our thoughts on some topics. And it is storming outside, so if you hear some background noises, we are in the midst of a storm. So with that being said, first topic I want to discuss, something that's been happening a lot, and I'm interested to hearing y'all's thoughts, is there's been a lot of folks recently that are rehoming their dogs. And to me, just my initial thoughts are, there are some circumstances where, that could be a good option for somebody. But in general, my perspective, based on my own experience, is if you get a dog, you're committed to that dog. That's your dog, right? If you rehome it, what are you basically doing? You're setting that dog up for failure in the future. That dog could have a lot of turmoil in its life. You know what I'm saying? So why not take responsibility for your dog and get it to a point to where it meets your expectations, it meets your goals? You know what I'm saying? Every dog is different, right? Every dog is going to have, just like any person, some things going on with it. I think most people probably, they get a dog, they expect it to be this dog that can lay on the couch with you. Anybody can pet it. It can play with other dogs at any blink of an eye. There's no issues. It potties outside whenever you want it to. It doesn't chew anything.
Perfection.
I think that we have this idea of like perfection, or most people have this idea of perfection whenever it comes to getting a dog. And then even if they get a puppy and that puppy starts to have problems, you know what I'm saying? Those people, people that are in these scenarios, they would rather just give up on it, give up the dog, versus stay committed to the decision that they made. And this is a problem that all the rescues are dealing with, because they're taking in these dogs that people are constantly trying to get rid of because it's not the perfect dog they thought it was going to be, whether it's chewing on furniture or they have to exercise it. They actually have to walk it. I didn't know I had to walk a dog. You know what I'm saying? All these different types of things. So I can only speak from my own experience. I have 2 dogs. I have 3 total, but 2 of them are cases where, one of them I actually took in from somebody who was rehoming it, and that's a great dog. Her name's Georgia. She's a Doberman Pinscher. She's about 4 years old. And the reason why these people were rehoming her is because they got her as a puppy to be a protection dog for their family. And then as she got older, they realized that they didn't need her to be a protection dog. So she was just a pet dog, but she's really good. She's very social. She's a great dog. She has a ton of energy, ton of drive. So she has to be managed. She has to be given those physical and mental stimulation or exercise outlets. You know what I'm saying? So anyway, they go about maybe 1 to 2 years with this dog, and she's chewing up their drywall. She's chewing up their carpets. She's chewing up their furniture, right? And they kept replacing these things. They kept replacing their drywall, replacing their furniture, replacing their carpet, not wanting to actually give time to the dog to exercise it, give structure to the dog, right? But just they wanted it to be that dog that can just hang out in the house. There's no problems. You never have to do anything with it. That's what they wanted. But the dog, that's not this kind of dog. You know what I'm saying? So the breaking point came when, and the underlying issue is the dog just has too much energy, understimulation, which is the problem with most dogs that have problem behaviors. Understimulation, meaning the dog's natural instincts are not being met. The dog's not getting mental exercise. The dog's not getting physical exercise. You know what I'm saying? To fulfill the very basic instincts that a dog or a human needs. Any living being needs physical and mental exercise. So anyway, the breaking point came for these people whenever I think one of the family members was on the couch with another dog they had. They had multiple dogs in the house. Had the Yorkie in the lap, right? And I think Georgia, the Doberman, was walking by. The Yorkie snapped at her. So Georgia just grabbed the Yorkie and started thrashing her and threw her across the room, right? And so that's when the breaking point came. We can't have this dog, right? We can't have this dog, blah, blah, blah. So I took the dog myself, and, at first I was like, maybe I'll just foster this dog, but then I realized this dog needs attention that only dedicated people can give it, right? So I took on the dog myself 100%, and she became my 3rd dog at the time, and she has not torn up my carpet. She has not eaten my drywall. She has a ton of energy. She has to exercise every day. She has to be worked every day. But within my structure that I've built for her, my expectations for her, she knows how to operate. You know what I'm saying? She gets that mental, physical stimulation. She's handled in a way that speaks her language. You know what I'm saying? Her instinctual needs are fulfilled, and she's good to go. You know, she's good with kids. She's good with other dogs. You know, she likes chasing squirrels and all that. But
She likes food.
She likes food. She loves food. You know what I'm saying? She loves food. So anyway, no problem with that. And then my other dog is the reason why I became a dog trainer, which if you're a consistent listener of the podcast, you may have heard me talk about him before. His name's Bane. But I got him when I was in the Navy, got him as a puppy because I always wanted like a working dog, right? I chose a Doberman because they have short fur instead of long fur. I didn't want a long furred dog to get hair everywhere. I wanted a short haired dog, right? So I picked a Doberman Pinscher for that. Got one. Bane, he was a puppy. When he got to be about a year old, up until that point, he had been totally social, totally fine, no issues, right? When he hit about a year old, he started to react at people, lunge at people, snap at people, which was super weird because up until that point, and this is before I ever got into dog training, I was letting him be pet by everybody, everything. You know, I was one of those people that I was like, I want to change the perspective of people thinking about this breed, the Doberman. I want them to know that it's a good social dog, right? I was one of those people. So anyway, letting him, and I was doing things the wrong way, knowing what I know now, you know, putting him into some situations where he probably was uncomfortable, and that resulted in the fruition of these behaviors. But anyway, lunging at people, snapping at people, barking at people, then that turned into doing that to other dogs. Then it turned into doing it to me and my family, which is not okay. And most people, and it's like scary, you know, you wake up at nighttime and the dog's standing over you, growling, snarling at your face, you know what I'm saying? Or you're in your living room and you're doing a simple thing in your living room, moving something from point A to point B, and all of a sudden he comes charging at you, teeth bared, and it's a physical altercation between you and him at that point, you know what I'm saying? Or I remember one time I came home from deployment and he was avoiding me, right? Just flat out avoiding me. I was like, why doesn't he want to see me? You know, I'm a typical human. And so anyway, when I actually went up to go pet him, he attacked me at that moment too. So then it was another physical altercation between me and him, my hands on him, and him, you know, body to body with me, you know what I'm saying? And so anyway, that was a situation where most people, I feel like, would say, we can't have this dog. We got to rehome this dog. And so if that dog goes to another home, does the same thing, it gets rehomed again and again and again, or put down. Yep. You know what I'm saying? So what did we do? We decided to get involved with dog training, start working with a local trainer to try and work on the problems. I actually ended up starting to work for that company, and but Bane could never be solved. They just told me it was one of those dogs. You'll never get rid of this. You're just going to have to always pay attention to him, not let him do X, Y, and Z, blah, 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 right? So I called bullshit on that, went and learned from Michael Ellis, and then I was able to actually rehabilitate his mindset to where those behaviors stopped, right? He does have dominance, so there are times where, and he'll throw a body signal communication that I can pick up on and redirect him, right? But he can be around the family, he can be pet, you know, it's not something that you're on your toes around, anything like that. You know, because that mindset has been completely changed through a very robust training and rehabilitation process. You know what I'm saying? But that took me months. I think if I was to put a timeline on it, it was at least 6 to 8 months of me working extremely diligently, extremely hard every single day to adjust that mindset and change it. You know what I'm saying? And get him to where he is now. And that started with the principles that Michael Ellis uses in his training, but I also had other mentors that I spoke with. One of them's name is John. Shout out to John. You know, to help me work through these scenarios, these problems, and get him to a point where he was good to go. You know what I'm saying? So that's kind of my story with two of my dogs that could have been in that scenario where people were like, you know what, we're gonna rehome these dogs. You know, but I decided to take responsibility and say, hey, these dogs, they need attention, you know? They need discipline. They need that instinctual needs met every single day, you know what I'm saying? So as a dog owner, if you take on a dog, my thoughts are you're committing to that dog, that living being, right? And it's your job to make sure you do everything you can to get them to a point where they can live in harmony with you, your lifestyle, your family. Now, it will take some time to build up to that point, right? Like even if you send your dog to training, like to us, Canine Revolution Dog Training, if you send your dog to training with us, even after training, there's going to be a time period where you're going to have to work harder than you're going to have to later in life. You know, whenever I was building Bane up to a point or rehabilitating him to a point where he could be suitable to live in the family, you know what I'm saying? That took a lot of time from me, you know, long training sessions, lots of exercise, lots of manipulation of the environment to make sure everything's good to go, you know what I'm saying? But now, today, it's very minimal. You know, I do some exercise, I do some training, and then he's on the couch with me watching TV at nighttime, you know what I'm saying? Or he's on his spot while I'm eating dinner, you know, or he's on his spot or in a downstay when I'm doing something with the kids, you know what I'm saying? So because I put the work in early and I was 100% committed to getting it done at that point, at the same time I was starting up a business, which takes a lot of time too, you know, and having kids and all that kind of stuff. So I get it. People's lives are busy, but you can do what you need to do. You know what I'm saying? And if you need a coach or a mentor to help you structure your day or your timeline or know what you should be doing, you know, that's what dog trainers are here for, at least, you know, high performance professional dog trainers. But you're going to have to put in the time. You're going to have to do things to build it up to a point to where it's more relaxed and easier for you to accomplish. You know what I'm saying? So and again, there are some circumstances where rehoming might be a good idea.
Yeah.
You know, like I have some friends, they had a death in the family, you know, life kind of chaos, you know, that's a scenario where rehoming one or more of the dogs that they had might be a good option, you know, because life is changed dramatically, you know what I'm saying? But other than those types of scenarios, you have responsibility of that dog. You're responsible to that dog. If that dog didn't end up being the dog that you had in your mind was going to be the perfect dog, that's fine. You know, you're still going to work with your dog, give it the best life it can, you know what I'm saying? And you learn from that. And whenever you get your next dog, you kind of know some things you're looking for, you know what I'm saying? Or things to watch out for so that you can have the dog that's your dream dog. You know what I'm saying? Like my dream dog back in the day was, you know, a nice working dog that I could have fun with. I could do a bunch of different stuff with and could be pet by anybody and play with any dog. You know, that's not the dog that I have, and that's okay. My dream dog has changed. You know, I thoroughly enjoy my time with my dogs, love those dogs to death. You know what I'm saying? We speak to each other on a different level that only man or woman and dog can understand between the two. You know, once you have that relationship, you can understand what I'm talking about. But if you've never had that relationship, you can't understand what I'm talking about. You know what I'm saying? So anyway, I'm going to pause my thoughts and open it up to you guys.
Well, it's just
your thoughts.
It's crazy how disposable dogs are to people. You know, you see it on social media all the time. Oh, we're moving, or oh, we can't. They tend to go to the route to where they kind of make themselves look like a victim. We can't give them what they need throughout the day or give them enough time. They need to be with somebody that's home all day. No, they don't. You just have to make that time to dedicate to them. And it's not going to be like a crazy extensive time period, you know, hour, 2 hours a day. Not a lot to ask, even with a busy life, right? But yeah, I mean, you see it all the time. And to me, it's barring certain circumstances like you mentioned, it's kind of just like shirking a responsibility. It's like an easy out. It's like at any time, for whatever reason, they have this dog and they say, oh, I love it, and this and that, but the slightest inconvenience came up, or I can't manage my household, he growled at my child, you know, something like that. He's got to go immediately. So they're just ready to throw him away at a moment's notice. And it's just wrong. And like you said, it's just going to pass the problem on. It's not addressing it. You know, a lot of these dogs that may have special cases, like the one that I took on that I'm fostering right now, they were going to euthanize him, you know. And that's just not the answer. He's 1 year old. He's got his whole life ahead of him. Not a hard dog to manage at all. But people who don't want to dedicate that time, I guess I can see how it'd be difficult. But people really need to assess when they're getting a dog and really understand what all that is going to entail.
Yeah. One thing I just thought of, too, when you were mentioning that is, you know, there's been a lot of people that they have this dog, right, for example, and then even if they work with us, they just can't hold back from treating the dog in a way that it shouldn't be treated. Mm-hmm. And I'm talking about the type of person that's treating their dog like a literal baby.
Oh, yeah.
Talking to their dog like it's a human child.
Carrying it around, coddling it.
Carrying it around or handling it in certain ways that basically you're communicating to the dog that you are submitting to them, that you are submissive to the dog, therefore you're empowering a dog. And if it has any form of dominance, which most dogs will or do, if there is some type of dominance, that can come to fruition, and then that can result in the dog attempting to correct you or whatever, because of the dominant factor. So a lot of people, they have the dog, they treat it like a baby, like a human child, and that's wrong. You got to treat the dog like a dog. You got to communicate to a dog like they're supposed to be communicated with, you know what I'm saying? And not, adjust protocols or the way that it should be handled because you as a human are wanting to satisfy your need to speak to them like they're a human baby, you know what I'm saying? And that's a struggle, and I've seen a lot of people deal with that, struggle with that, and I don't know what it is, but people have a really hard time holding back from that, you know what I'm saying? The people that really want to do that, I really see them struggle, which is something that I try to work with them on, like constantly trying to help them overcome those types of behaviors that they are exhibiting to their dog and explaining why it would be a bad thing to do that or a good thing to do this, you know what I'm saying? But it is a struggle for a lot of people, and you really got to understand that dogs are not humans. Humans are not dogs, you know what I'm saying? We live together, dogs and humans. We have for a long time, but there's boundaries between the two of us. One example is some people like to wrestle with their dog, right, physically.
I did before I became a trainer.
And why, yes, like you can do that with some dogs.
Yeah.
You can't do that with every dog, right? So my rule is I'm just not going to do that with dogs. I play with them with toys, like with some type of toy, a tug toy, a ball, a little squeaky toy, whatever. And I keep the boundary very clear between me and the dog, even if it's a dog that I could wrestle with. I still don't.
Yeah.
Because I'm also trying to keep my head clear that this is a dog and not a human, and that I'm a human, not a dog. You see what I'm saying? So that's just an example of one rule that I have. Yes, I do let my dogs sit on the couch with me, and lay with me and that kind of thing. But if I ever need them to move away from that position, I tell them to move away, get off the couch, and they respond immediately. It's not a question if I'm asking them. It's not a question if I'm really going to make them do it or not. If I ask them to get off, they got to get off, and they know that. And it's because we've kept our boundaries, our expectations very clear. We have that mutual respect for one another. We trust one another because we fulfill each other's needs by walking together, training together, so on and so forth, you know what I'm saying? So whenever I need you to do something, it's very cut and dry. It's not like a bad thing. It's just that's how we operate. We understand that. And then if I see that my dog needs something, if I can tell my dog has more energy than normal, I'm like, hey, you need something, I'm going to take care of that for you. I'm going to go with you, and we're going to take care of that. If my dog is showing signs of discomfort, I'm going to help take care of them. You know what I'm saying? Just like if I need them to get off the couch, they'll get off the couch for me, right? Because I'm sitting on the couch or whatever, and I don't want your face in my pizza or whatever. You know what I'm saying? Just as an example. But like, I'm going to take care of that dog too. If the dog is communicating to me that they need something, I'm going to do my best to take care of that dog. Yeah. That's why my dogs have a chiropractor as well. You know what I'm saying?
Don't get me wrong too. You can be like, we're not saying don't be affectionate to your dogs, right? You can be affectionate to your dogs. You can even dress them up in the little holiday outfits if you want, whatever the case may be. But there has to be the balance. Right?
Well, some dogs don't like that.
Right,
so like,
exactly.
Don't force your dog. Like if you're the kind of person that wants to put a dress or whatever on your dog, that's, honestly, it's fine.
Yeah.
If it's fine for your dog.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? If your dog doesn't like that, don't force them to do it.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? It's like that's a breach of the mutual trust and respect factor.
Yeah.
Well, and it's like what's going on in here as
Right.
the owner, what's going on in your mind?
Right.
That's a factor as well. It's like are you really like, if you like to do that because it's a cool picture for the gram, like cool, whatever, and the dog's cool with it, like cool. But like, is your perspective like, hey, he likes this outfit, or hey, he wants to do this, or hey, it's his birthday, so we're gonna put his special birthday clothes on, or something like that. You know what I'm saying? It's like, if your mentality is like, hey, I'm doing this and my dog thinks this is awesome, right? Then that's got to be changed. Right. That's the perspective. If you're like, hey, this is a cool little picture for, you know, social media or whatever, and the dog's cool with it and it's not really causing any issues, but you understand this is a dog, right? So like, this is for me. I'm doing this for me as a human or whatever. Then you have to have that boundary in place, that break. You know what I'm saying? I mean, I don't mess around with a whole lot of that stuff, dressing up with dogs and doing that kind of stuff. But I can see the appeal. So like, I'm not going to say it's wrong and not to do it, but just have that perspective. That
I have like, personally, I have a raincoat for Bane. And so I'll put that on him. He'll go out in the rain. If he doesn't have it on, he doesn't want to go out in the rain. Like, to me,
I got a jacket for camping.
To me, that's a functional thing. It's not like I'm dressing it up because he looks good. It's just because I'm trying to get a functional thing. But I'm glad you brought up the birthday thing, because
dog has no idea what day it is.
Well, something else people do is they buy their dog this huge doggy birthday cake or cookie, and they're like wanting to give it to the dog. And some dogs eat them, some dogs don't. And they're like, "Why don't you want your cake?" It's like, dogs like meat. They're carnivores, you know what I'm saying? So if you really want to get your dog a birthday thing, get it a steak.
But just do that every day. It doesn't have to be a birthday thing.
Yeah.
You know?
But like, if you're doing something special,
right,
get them some kind of special thing that they like.
Something that would be special to them.
Right. Cake is like bullshit. Yeah. You know, not good for you.
Yeah. I mean,
but it is good.
I'll take a steak over.
I mean, if Lexi cooks or bakes. If she bakes a cookie dough cake, I'll have a piece.
I'll have 2 pieces.
If she bakes bakes not cooks. If she bakes a Oreo cake, I'll eat it.
I like the cookie dough one better, but I'm still down
small
for
slice of it, you know.
I think everyone likes
I'm eating
the cookie
that
dough
beef
better.
every day. I'm eating that beef every day, and my dogs want it too.
Yeah,
so I give it to them too. It's true, you know. Anyway, other thoughts about the rehoming thing?
Yeah, so I mean, I agree with everything both of you said, and my views are aligned with that. I think the bottom line is, you've got the dog; it's your responsibility. You know, figure it out. You know what I'm saying? There were plenty of times when I was working through the issues with my dog Vader, where it could have been easy I could make up an excuse or whatever. Oh, he's just not compatible here or whatever. But it's like I think Kevin said, that's not like, rehoming him is not addressing the issue, right? That issue is going to be carried on, and if not, it's going to get exacerbated. It's going to be worse, because now we're causing all the stress of changing environments, new owners, all this stuff. So like, now you're making that dog even more uncomfortable, right? And so like, those you're just passing those issues on to somebody else. So like, take ownership of it, take responsibility of it, address it, you know. Or if you can't, find somebody like Canine Revolution Dog Training that can help you out. And it may not be as intense as, oh well, I can't pay all this money for an in-depth training program or whatnot. We've got plenty of resources that we can help you out. We'll at least talk to you, like talk to us, and we can give you resources. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. But there are things out there that you can address these things. So take ownership of it. And I think there are a few incidences where it's okay to rehome a dog. Like, there can be cases like that, like what you were talking about. You know, I've had clients where maybe they're older and they got a dog and they can't handle this dog. Now the son takes over the dog, right? Like, that'd be a reasonable thing. But I think the bigger issue is, we got to look at the dog selection too. Like, when people are in the process of selecting the dog, that's where the real failure is. It's like, if I'm 85 years old and I get a Malinois puppy, you know what I'm saying? You gotta understand, like, that's probably not the best choice. But it depends on your goal. I'm not saying 85-year-olds can't get after it. I've seen plenty that'll get after it. But my point is, it's like, know your expectations, have reasonable expectations, and then maybe seek out some professional help before you select your dog. You know, I think a lot of people make emotional decisions. You know, we see the commercials. The who's the lady that's
Sarah McLachlan?
Yeah, thanks. Right, we see the sad song, the sad puppy. Oh my gosh, that puppy needs my help.
They're showing
right, they're
donate
like all
$5.
Yeah, exactly. Right, so like, you go to the shelter, you see this sad dog. They got the puppy dog. It's like, again, we're putting human emotions on this dog, right? Oh, this dog needs me. I want to save this dog, right? But really, you don't have what it takes to save that dog, maybe, right? Yeah. Now you get into it and you're like, oh man, I just can't do this. I need to rehome this dog, right? So like, if you made the decision, it's your responsibility. Own it. Be responsible to do what's right for that dog. But I think if you're right now in this situation, let's say you're the listener and you're in the process of, hey, I want to get a dog, you're in a perfect opportunity to make sure you're making the right call, right? So like seek us. We tell people all the time, we'll help you select a dog. We've done that before. We've selected dogs from breeders. We've selected dogs from shelters. We say, hey, this will fit your lifestyle. You tell us what you want. Like if you're like, hey, I like to sleep in, I like to just kind of be a little bit lazy, I don't like to get after it, we're not going to recommend that you get a working dog. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. And so you have to, like, I think that's where the true failure is people don't have their realistic expectations, and then they're not selecting the right dogs in the beginning. But
going to dog selection, good point to bring up. But when I was at the Michael Ellis School, actually, there was a older gentleman there with a Malinois, and he's competing in sports.
Mm-hmm. Sure, yeah. I mean,
he's like 70.
Right,
I mean, you can definitely do it. You know?
Sure,
But
100%.
For most people that are older, they probably don't want to be working at that level or doing things at that level. Mm-hmm. So you do need. And there was one lady many years ago. She had this super hyper puppy, and we did training with her and all that. And I told her because she's getting frustrated, and I told her at a certain point, I was like, hey, you know, this puppy may not be for your lifestyle. I'd be more than happy to help you select a dog that fits your lifestyle more, that doesn't need as much attention and exercise. And, you know, this is my dog, which I appreciated.
Yeah,
you know,
for sure.
And I was like, all right, well, then we're going to make sure we're good to go, you know. But selection comes down to a couple things, you know, dog selection, which we've done some podcast episodes on selecting a dog. But first of all, you're thinking about your breed in general. You know, you have the different groups of breeds. You have the working breed, you have the working group, the hunting group, whatever, you know. But even if you're like looking at a hunting group dog, like let's say some type of hound dog, in general, those dogs are going to be into Kevin. You're making a face, you know.
I was thinking about Clyde.
Kevin is the hound daddy.
In general,
it's been a while.
In general, they're going to be pretty independent. You know, which means they're not going to want to do things that you want them to do all the time, which means there might be some power struggles going on, just like with kids, and you have to handle that in different ways. You know, you have to communicate to them in a way where they want to pay attention to you, where they want to do what you're doing, want to do what you have them doing, and that comes from manipulation of the environment, manipulation of vital resources, so on and so forth. But anyway, let's just say, you know, that's typical of a hunting group dog, a hound dog. But each individual dog has its own personality. Mm-hmm. So you could have a hunting group dog that's a hound dog. All the brothers and sisters of that dogs are out there hunting, and this dog would love to lay on the couch all day. So there are outliers to each group. So that's where the expertise comes in. Like if you guys reach out to us and say, hey, we want you to help us pick out a dog, which is something that we do, and you have a breeder, for example, we look at all the dogs and we give you the best assessment that we can based on all the information. We're going to ask about the parents. We're going to ask about the bloodline. We're going to ask to see everybody. We want to see all the litter mates. We want to see the mom. We want to look at all the different personality traits that they're showing at that time. And that just gives us the best estimate of what this dog could be in the future, you know. And again, things change as time goes on. But again, we're looking for all the indicators that give us the best assumption of what's going to happen, you know, or how the dog's going to turn out. But if you go to a shelter or a rescue or a animal sanctuary and there's older dogs there, you know, because that dog's been through life, a lot of times we can go look at those dogs and give you an assessment of like, all right, this is the kind of dog this is, you know what I'm saying? And yeah, you might need to work on a couple things here and there with that dog specifically, just because they've been, you know, through life more. They have habits that they've built up. They have behaviors that they built up that might need to be changed or reversed or something like that, you know what I'm saying? But in general, again, we can make an assessment, give you our feedback, our recommendation. Like if you say, hey, I want to chill out, I'm a homebody, I like to sit around the house, I've had cats, you know, I don't really like walking too much, I don't like doing this, don't want to take my dog out to places, right? We'll go and help you locate a dog that's good for your lifestyle, versus you say that you're that type of person, but you watched a movie and you're like, hey, there was a Rottweiler in that movie. I like the way that dog looks, so I want to go get that dog, right? Now, again, there could be Rottweilers that are chill, that can just be a homebody with you, you know. But in general, that's a working dog. So they're going to need more exercise than the average dog. They're going to need more training than the average dog. You know what I'm saying? So you have to have those considerations in place. You know what I'm saying? I think a lot of people, they see dogs, they're cute, you know, like they're like, oh, I'll get a doodle because that's what my neighbor has and it's super good. You know what I'm saying? And I found this one on Instagram or Facebook and it's so cute. I already made a deposit on it. Like, you didn't even meet the dog. You have no information on the dog. You made a deposit based on a picture. You go pick it up, you know. 5 months later, you realize this thing's a nightmare. You know what I'm saying?
Dog's a straight psychopath.
And so then you have all these, it wasn't what you expected, and so now you're ready to get rid of it. You know, and that could be any dog, golden retriever, you know, anything, you know. So you can't make a rash decision. You always got to, you know, me being how I am, I always am very calculated about things. I get that not everybody's like that, but you look at something, you look into it a little bit, look at it some more, look into it some more, try to get more information before you make a final decision. You know, especially something that's going to be around for 15, 20 years. You know what I'm saying? So, and we all want our dogs to live the longest, healthiest life possible. You know what I'm saying? So, anyway.
But even so, like, you are a more calculated person. I would say that I make more emotional decisions than you do, right? Like, so like I think of like I can see myself making emotional decision. I think of like Riley, who Lexi has right now. Like, he was fostered with me for a year, and that was an emotional decision. I bonded with that dog. I fell in love with that dog. I saw his struggle. He was scheduled to be put down. You know what I'm saying? So like at a certain point, I'm like, I am making an emotional decision to foster this dog because homes, like, people didn't have what it takes to take him on, and homes weren't working out. And so like, I saw his future was going to be euthanization or being killed. You know what I'm saying? And so I did make an emotional decision, but it still comes down to the responsibility. So like, while I emotionally was like, I can't let that dog get killed. I'm taking this dog on. I didn't have the time. I have 3 dogs myself. I got a kid. I got another one on the way. There's a lot of other factors that I had going on, but it's like, I am willing to take responsibility for everything that has to be done for this dog, give this dog what it needs, despite the fact that I don't have time. I don't have time. I'm going to make time, right? I got 3 dogs to work. I'm going to work them and work this dog until we get him set up. You know what I mean? So like, even making emotional decisions, you have to take the responsibility and take ownership of the situation.
I'm glad you brought that up, because me personally, you know, I've had a lot of dogs that have crossed paths with me, or people reaching out to me trying to get me to take dogs. And I'm like, dude, I'm at my literal limit with what I can handle responsibility wise. Yeah. With 3 dogs, 2 requiring more work than the other dog, right? 2 kids, family, business, you know, all this kind of stuff. You know, you got 24 hours in a day, you know, you run out of time. You know what I'm saying? So while there have been other dogs that have crossed paths with me, I've had to say, I cannot take this dog on personally.
You have to know your limits.
Right. So that's the other thing too. You got to have boundaries.
Yeah.
You know, 100%. Because I don't want someone listening to think, I feel bad for this dog, I got to help every single dog. And it's like, now their house is full of 40 dogs and none of the dogs are getting what the dogs need.
100%. Yeah.
You know, because now we have too much on our plate. So it's coming down to that balancing act, you know what I'm saying? Trying to figure that out. But even if you don't have the time to allocate to take on a dog that needs help, for example, you know, you can still do your best to find resources to help that person, or to help the person that's with that dog, to get them on the best path possible. You know what I'm saying? Or, you know, this is something that I've talked to a couple people about, but we got a ton of rescues that are struggling. There's no fosters. There's no, they're running out of time and resources too for their dogs. So what is the way forward for all the dogs that are getting rehomed, you know, and going to shelters and rescues? Well, the first thing is that people need to actually take responsibility of their dog and take care of that dog. You know, if everyone, you know, got one dog, and then it didn't turn out to be that perfect dog that they wanted, and they actually stayed committed to that dog and took the responsibility that it takes to give that dog the best life it can have, which fulfills the dog's life and in turn will fulfill the person's life. You know what I'm saying? Because now you're helping another being. You know what I'm saying? If everyone did that, the rescues wouldn't be overwhelmed. The shelters wouldn't be overwhelmed. But let's say that's not the case. Like, that is the thing that needs to happen. That's what we're talking about right here. Stop trying to rehome your dog when it's your responsibility, other than the outlying cases.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? But the other thing would be, instead of having a bunch of shelters, maybe there needs to be more animal sanctuaries where people are able to set up a property where it's maximally protected, and the structure can be set up to where the dogs are basically just living, and they can be given food, they have water available, they have a yard space, they have an indoor shelter area, and that's it, and then they live out their life there, probably not enough of those around,
Yeah.
But,
Well, I think too, though, this is just throwing it out there. You tell me what you guys think. But I think sometimes shelters, rescues, even we can throw some veterinarians in there. That can be part of the problem because it's like an easy out. What if we started forcing people to take? What if, hey, I'm calling this rescue. Hey, this dog bit my kid, whatever. And the rescue says, hey, we can't take this dog. No, we can't help you with that. We've got other boundaries in place where we're helping these other dogs. Or a vet says, hey, no, we're not putting your dog down for that kind of thing. Go seek training.
Yeah.
Right? Because it's too easy to, like, what would owners do if all these resources, if they couldn't just dump their dog off to somebody, right? Maybe they would still post on Facebook or whatever when nobody takes it up. What? You're forced to take ownership of that, or you're gonna have to put your dog down yourself.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So now it's on you.
So I talked to someone recently within the past couple of months that they actually tried to put their dog down at the vet for whatever reason, and the vet denied them. And I tried to, figure out what vet that was. They didn't know or wouldn't tell me or whatever,
Yeah.
But anyway, we need more vets like that.
100%.
Because I think the vet did tell them, hey, you need to go seek a trainer, but what we need is a network where, well, the thing is, a lot of vets, they get some behavioral training when they're in school, which is good, but I think maybe they try to delve into that realm. If vets focus on the medical side, and then they have a network where they can communicate with trainers for more of the behavior side, that might be a solution to try and curtail that problem, But overall, people are, once they're in that mindset, we have to help change their mindset. Once they're in the mindset, I need to get rid of this dog, there has to be another way to also help those people change that mindset. Maybe it's good trainer.
I think that's easier said than done. I mean, we
That's
live in
what I'm saying.
we live in this world where it's like you want things now. If I don't want this, I want it gone.
Right.
If I have a problem, I want it gone. And
Right.
now the dogs are problems, and it's not like a living being in their mind. At some point, they write it off like, get out of here, we're done. And you can't, it's almost like, because we've had these conversations, it's almost like you can't rationalize or try to, you can't really pull them back over to the other side because the decision's been made. They've made whatever excuses in their head that they need to write it off. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But it does need to be done. Yeah. Like, we're going to keep fighting the fight, but.
Well, when people get the dogs, it needs to be something that's like not even in your mind. Right? So you get a dog, you say, hey, I'm going to dedicate X, Y, and Z to this dog and make it happen, right? So even though you said, oh, I made an emotional decision, maybe, but you made a rash emotional decision.
Yeah,
right?
100%. So even with Vader,
right?
Even my dog Vader, that wasn't even on the table. In my head, like before I started working with Chad and addressing the behavior, like in my head, I'm like, this is just how it is,
right.
and this is how the rest of his life. But it was never, I got to put him down, I'm going to rehome him, put him somewhere else. He's my dog. I have responsibility. So, yeah, I just can't go in places where there's going to be dogs. That's our life.
That's a good point to bring up, too, because there's a lot of people out there like that. They are like, this is how it is. My dog can't do this. My dog can't do that, blah, blah, blah.
For sure.
Those people also need to come into the world of training and learn that those things can be manipulated. But hats off to those people that are dedicated. Maybe they just don't know enough about training, or they're not into the training world yet. Hopefully they can be reached one day
For sure.
to help make their life better and the dog's life better too. But hats off to them for having that dedication.
I'll take that client all day, every day.
yeah.
Because once they're in that world, now it's like they are, because that you take that dedication and then give them tools and knowledge and education, and they're going to be rock stars.
My thoughts are with the guy at the old place in the neighborhood with the big pitty that he had on a harness. He was in a boonie hat, and he had a big old
He's dedicated
rope leash, and as soon as you come by, he's hold on, buddy. And
He'd spread his legs wide. He's just getting ready. He's getting situated, and then holds that dog back. I mean,
that guy was dedicated.
He was dedicated.
You know what I'm saying?
Still would walk, even though that dog was reactive as
I
heck.
think one time I mentioned to him, hey, can I help you? And he's like, hold on. I was like, all right, he's gone. He's gone mentally.
He's figured out what works best for him.
Yeah. Hats off to people like that are dedicated 110%, you know. So, but yeah, I mean, the combination of the shelter or the rescues and shelters, when they're at capacity, they need to be at capacity and not shove it even more full.
Right.
You know, and then the vets need to shut down putting dogs down, you know what I'm saying, so easily if they are doing that. And more responsibility for the dog that you took on.
Yeah.
You know
when you think about it, it's not really rescue, right? So like if I'm a rescue, right, and you come to me saying, hey, I want to get rid of my dog, like I'm not going to rescue that dog, right? Like a rescue, in my mind, it's like for these cases where like law enforcement gets involved and seizes a bunch of dogs from like a dog fighting ring or something, or like a hoarding situation or something where we're stepping in dogs that are found emaciated, you know, wandering the streets or something. Maybe that dog needs to be rescued, maybe not. But the point is, like, where people are rehoming their dog, that's not a rescue situation. That's not. I don't feel like that's what rescues are designed for.
Right.
You know what I mean? That dog doesn't need to be rescued. Maybe it needs to be rescued by you. You know what I'm saying? Like, you need to own that situation and fix it.
Yeah.
And some dogs that are living out in the woods are happy.
Yeah,
Sometimes they're good to go. Just leave them be.
You know, they're like that.
Not every dog needs to, be rescued. They're just doing what they would do.
That black
instinctually.
dog that's out there, out in the woods. You know what I'm talking about? That's always on the side of the road running around. People have tried to get him. He doesn't want it. He doesn't want people.
He's having a good time.
And he looks healthy.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
He's eating.
He's having a good time. So
He's able to thrive.
Every dog that's out there doesn't always have to be grabbed and trapped
sure.
and brought in. Like they're living a life.
Yeah.
You know,
Well,
what I'm saying?
that's a us thing. It's very fulfilling.
Yeah.
That's where the emotional decisions do. I see how rescues can easily just drowning dogs.
Yeah.
There was one in the upstate, and when they came into our home for I think it was a smell got reported or something. There was one lady trying to rescue a bunch of dogs, and they found over 40 dogs and cats.
This is just a random person.
Yeah. Trying to do, trying to
take care of
But
them.
they got overwhelmed.
Yeah.
Now she couldn't care for the dogs. Now a lot of these dogs are dead from, starving, things like that, because funds aren't available, whatever.
Yeah.
At that point, I mean, cut them loose. They got a better chance out in the wild than they do.
Let them fend
with
for
that.
themselves.
Yeah.
versus-
But it's our state, I have to do this. This is my calling. This dog needs me. Not every case,
That goes back to knowing your limits, your bounds. Like, hey, what can I actually sustain and actually do?
Yeah.
Because if you're shoving your house full of 40 dogs and cats, there's no way you can exercise every one of those dogs. If you give every dog an hour a day of exercise, which
There's
is
not
what we
enough time in
recommend, that's 40 hours.
Yeah.
So you're already into 2 days
Yeah.
before each dog gets another round of exercise.
You couldn't even afford to feed those dogs.
Right.
I mean, you're going through bags and bags of food a day. Even
Yeah.
the cheapest kibble you can buy, you're still shelling out a lot of money.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. So just could go downhill real quick. But
Yeah.
anyway, something else that I was thinking about was people trusting dogs too much. There was a situation recently where a family grabbed a dog from the side of the road. Felt bad for the dog. Whatever. They pick it up. Dog's interacting with some kids that come over, and they say, "Yeah, he's fine to be pet." They've had the dog for a couple days. Yeah, he's fine to be pet. Dog lights up one of the kids, causes major damage. You know what I'm saying? So why did we trust that dog when we didn't even know it?
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Here's the deal. When a dog goes to a new place, it's not going to be in its normal behavior. Think about whenever you go to a new place. Are you acting like you do around your best buddies? No. You know what I'm saying? You're going to kind of
on guard.
You're gonna you're gonna
feel it out a little
You're
bit.
gonna be neutral. You're gonna feel out the environment. You're gonna feel the vibe, and you might adjust how you're acting to the vibe. And then if you're around that scenario for multiple times, then you might eventually become your true self in that environment. You know what I'm saying? So same thing with the dog. You grab a dog from the side of the road, the dog's like, "What the hell? Like who the hell are you?"
I was eating trash. What are we doing now? What's going on?
You throw it in the back of your car. It's like, where the hell am I at now? Maybe I don't know the status of this dog or anything, but the dog was probably at a semi-healthy weight, so it means it wasn't starving.
Right.
So he's roaming around. he's either hunting or he's like if a deer gets hit by a car, dogs will eat that, you know. So he's eating off the land. He's doing his thing. He's scratching, digging holes. He's probably got a little bed down area that he's laying in. And so these people grab him. You know, he's like, what the hell? You just messed up my whole routine, you know, because he's got a routine. They throw him in a car. He's like, what the hell is this thing? You know, we're moving weird ways. We got weird motions and all that. And then end up at their house, and now he's getting food. People are coddling him, talking to him in sweet voices. He's like, oh, I guess these people worship me. You know what I'm saying? I guess I'm the big bad boss around here. And then he gets uncomfortable because there's a kid, and he's like, you know, I don't like this thing, so I'm just going to bite it, you know what I'm saying, or light it up, or maybe this is a prey item because he's used to chasing things and eating them. Yeah. Who knows what happened? You know
it's
what I'm
not
saying?
his fault. He doesn't know any better.
That's what I'm saying. Like, there was too much trust placed on that dog because, again, we have this thought of a perfect dog where it can be pet by anybody, can be doing anything. You know, it's a good-looking dog. I think this was like a bigger breed, so a good-looking dog. You know what I'm saying? So it's just we got to take time, you know. Yeah. If you get a dog, you need to have a routine and a structure set up to where you're observing this dog, you're getting used to this dog's getting used to you. The first thing you do, the first thing we do in training, the first thing you do if you get a dog, you build a relationship. How do you do that? By walking it, by feeding it, by getting to know it. You know what I'm saying? You don't just throw it into a scenario on day 3 of having it and say, oh, he's fine. You know what I'm saying?
Because farmer's market.
Yeah, you don't know. You know what I'm saying? So you got to take time to really get to know that dog. You know, that could take months. Yeah. You know, you definitely need to play it safe. But I think we put too much trust on dogs or dogs we don't know. Or even if you go over to your friend's house, right? And they have a dog. And they're like, oh, he's fine. He's fine. You can pet him, whatever. I'm making observations on that dog. I'm going to respect that dog and his boundaries. You know what I'm saying? Now, if within a couple minutes of getting there, that dog is showing me body language and things that I know just from my experience with dogs that, okay, this dog's fine with me petting him or whatever, I'll pet him, whatever. You know what I'm saying? But if the dog is showing me things that he's uncomfortable or nervous or, you know, doesn't want to be interacted with, then I'll leave him alone. You know what I'm saying? But I think a lot of people that walk into that scenario, oh, he's fine, you can pet him. They're going right up to the, oh, hey, you know, going right up to the dog, trying to pet it, putting the dog into an uncomfortable situation. The dog snaps at somebody, oh, he's never done that before. You know what I'm saying? It's like we really need to get to know our dogs. We really need to get to know their behaviors, what kind of things they don't like, what things they do like, you know what I'm saying? And all the situations that we've been exposed to and that we've dealt with in people's houses usually come from, number one, the people don't really know their dogs to that level. They don't really know the types of things that the dog's nervous or anxious or triggered by, for example. And they put too much trust in the dog, treating the dog, again, like a human child instead of a dog. You know what I'm saying? So any thoughts on that topic?
Yeah, I mean, and it's not just even new dogs, right? You could have a dog for years. I know a lot of people, oh, I know dogs. I know this breed. I know what my dog's going to do. Okay, do you really? Do you know 100% of the time what your dog is going to do in any situation that could arise? You know what I mean? So that's a big thing too. One, people are already complacent. You know, dog's doing whatever it wants. Oh, it's his house. Da 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 da. Now, like you said, somebody comes in. You may have interacted with this dog before, but he may not be feeling it, or he may be reinforced to the point now to where he's like, I control this environment and I'm fully set in my ways. And boom, something happens, and then that goes hand in hand with, oh, we got to rehome him because this happened. Well, why did it happen? You know, you say you know your dog, so why'd it happen? Right? So that's a big thing too.
Yeah.
I think people do it backwards. We start, hey, I'm going to trust until I have a reason not to trust, right? When you need to start, when you got, whether I'm rescuing a dog, or I've adopted a dog, or I've got a puppy, I don't care, or I'm hanging out with the family and I go over to Chad's house and it's his dog, right? Trust should start at 0 and then we build it up. We build up. Trust is built up both ways, not just to where I'm trusting the dog, where the dog can trust me as well, because that's just as equally part of the equation. You know what I'm saying? There was a time I did not trust Bane, you know, and this was done right. Whenever I would come over, Chad's like, hey, just don't get up in his face, that kind of stuff. Now my whole family can come over to Chad's house. We hang out, whatever. No factor, because we've built up. I've worked Bane myself. I've done obedience with him. I've built trust with him. Right? You know what I mean? And so same thing with my dog. Same thing with dogs that I've fostered, like Riley, that like Lexi's dog. Whenever I started fostering him, trust was at 0. Even though I trained him, I wouldn't say it's at 0. It's a little bit higher. But now I'm changing his environment, bringing him into my home versus being in the kennel. Now he's around my kid. He's around my wife. He's around my other dogs. Trust is going to be built, right? I'm not just saying, hey, I trained this dog for a month. He's good to go. You know what I'm saying? Like, we'll just cut him loose. Like, no, we're gonna work on the relationship, develop it in this new circumstance, so we don't have an issue and then have to build up from there.
Yeah.
So.
One thing too is like if you walk into a house and like Kevin said, you've known the dog, you've been around the dog, maybe you haven't been around in a while, you walk into the house, it might take that dog a minute to actually recognize you.
Yeah.
You know, some dogs, they can see you immediately and recognize you. Some dogs, they need some time to get your scent into their system and actually have the scent memory repopulate, you know what I'm saying? So you can't just walk into a house with a dog that you've been familiar with before and walk straight up to it and treat it like you did the last time. You need to walk in, let there be some type of settling period, and then continue to observe the dog's behavior and make sure that dog understands, you know, and remembers you.
And that's a good point, because that is like when people, let's just say for the doorbell going off. So you're going over to somebody's house, the doorbell goes off. That is, for most dogs, a high arousal event.
Yep.
And what dogs will do in that high arousal state with no control is very unpredictable. You don't know what, like, because that is essentially anxiety. They have this excess energy because, like, oh, somebody's over. Even if they're like excited in what we would say a positive way, oh, excited to see us or whatnot. You don't know what is going to happen. They're in that aroused state. You approach them maybe, and you're like, oh, hey, buddy, but you're in a very dominant body position. You don't know what things can go, you know, very quickly where they're now offended.
Yeah.
And so now they're going to correct you, or they're afraid. They're very, very quickly, you put them in a fearful spot. Now they feel like they're backed in a corner and they're going to bite you. You know what I'm saying? So like you've got, like you said, a settling period is huge because we don't know what they're going to do in that high arousal state.
Yeah, if I had a freaking dime for every time I've seen somebody lean over a dog, pat him over the head and go to try to kiss him on the mouth, it's like, bro,
Yeah.
that's a ticking time bomb.
Makes me
you
pucker.
know?
Oh, yeah. For sure.
I think that it also comes from like a lack of understanding that leads to like misplaced trust. So like I've had, you know, people tell me before, like, hey, you know, I'm having a new baby. You know, I want the dog trained for the new baby. Maybe there is a little bit of a lack of trust there. Maybe that's why they want the training, but then they get the dog trained. You know, they're like, hey, what should we do whenever the new baby comes in? We, you know, tell them what to do. They don't follow it. And then, you know, sometimes, you know, checking in, they're like, well, you know, he went up to the crib one time and was wagging his tail like he was happy. And I'm like, okay, so he did that one time, but also, you know, do you know exactly how he was wagging his tail?
Right.
Do you know, like, was it, you know, something where he was being actually dominant and not actually, you know, a friendly type, you know, wag there? But then you'll also see is like, oh, well, you know, one time the baby crawled near him and he was okay. Well, you know, okay, that doesn't go for every time. You know,
That's
it's
a good
still
point.
like you can't just like give trust based off of one experience. Like Chris is talking about, hey, you build trust. That doesn't mean, hey, well, it happened, you know, 1 or 2 times, we must be good to go.
Yeah.
Like we also mentioned, you know, you can't predict everything your dog is going to do.
Right.
So yes, the trust is built up, but like there still has to be, you know, like, you know, some monitoring there specifically for like a new baby scenario, but it's just like even you know, building up the trust isn't going to take, you know, just 1 or 2 times.
Yeah.
Well, it's also a good way to look at it too, right? So they're living, breathing beings, right? They're going to have different days, right? We have different
Yep.
days. Are y'all the same every day? I'm not. Some days I'm here, some days I'm there, whatever. I'm maintaining, but my mood could be different. Same way with them. Some could be going in an environment where they're feeling uncomfortable or they don't like what's going on. They're stressed. They're on edge. And now we get this situation where, hey, that baby's crawled to that dog time and time again and no issue. Now there's an issue, right? So we have to look at them like that. Just because it happens 1 or 2 times and everything's good doesn't mean it's going to be automatic from that point on. Because if we understand that we can be different on a daily basis, obviously animals can as well.
Yeah. And I mean, every scenario, circumstances are different.
Right.
In every single scenario, there's something that is different in the circumstances. So like you said, dog walks up the baby, there's no factor. So now I have this, like, my trust goes from 0 to 100. All right. Now I'm like, okay, I can go walk into the kitchen and be out of sight. I've just changed this. I've just changed the scenario completely by removing myself. Right. So there's always these little things that can change. So just because it happened, it's good one time, that like you've got to rep these things out. And that's why training is so beneficial, right? Because that's what it does is it puts us through thousands of repetitions. So now I've got a track record of saying, yeah, you know what? 99% of the time, things are good to go. I'm still not dropping my guard 100%, right? Like it's never going to be that 100%. Like nothing is going to happen because circumstances always change. You have to, as best as possible, control the environment, but understand like trust is built over time. Put in the reps. Don't just falsely trust too soon.
Right. Or, I mean, not, like you said, never 100%, right?
Yeah.
So I tell all my clients, when can I not put the collar on them anymore? When can I ease up on this and this and that? And it's like, I always tell them the same thing. I'm like, I'm a big what if guy. I put my collar on my dog every day. I may not have to use it, but in a moment when I need to, because something has occurred, I can get it, right? And get him back under control. Because do I know what my dog's going to do 100% of the time? No.
Right.
So things happen. Right, we're not perfect. Things happen with our dogs, but we have to be fluid and we adjust them, and we can see, when it's developing and understand why it's happening. So that's a big thing too.
Yeah, the training tools that we use every day, regular first saver collar or whatever type of collar you put a leash on, your leash, your remote collar. I mean, those are communication.
Yep.
A dog is not a human, like we keep saying. So, like I'm talking to you guys right now, like we're talking to the listener. We understand what we're saying. Dogs, if I was sitting here having this conversation with a dog, they'd just be looking at me or not even looking at me like,
where's the hot dogs?
Yeah, exactly. Like there's nothing going on in the brain, or at least the communication is not equivalent, you know what I'm saying? So how do I communicate with them? Well, I got to communicate in a way they understand non-verbally, Then I build that up, and then we can build these tools into the communication to where they understand what the signals from the tools mean. And then we can utilize that in a variety of different ways. So why would I ever want to eliminate one of my communication methods when I might need it? You know what I'm saying?
And it's crazy. I know y'all are the same way, but like personal dogs, they move a certain way. You basically know what they're thinking, what they're doing. Like that's crazy. I mean, we always talk about adapting to the dog, but it's crazy how we've gotten to that level. So the listener should, aim to get at that level as well, so that you do know your dog as much as possible to avoid things like this happening. But at the end of the day, again, like you said, having the things in place, having that communication in place, that's going to be the key to not only avoiding things happening, but being able to address them effectively when they do occur.
Right. And I think people don't put enough. I think there's not enough understanding. How do you get to that? How do you get to that point where you can look at your dog and say, he's thinking about going for it right now, or he's good to go right now, right? And that comes with time, building the trust slowly over time, doing those thousands of repetitions, not just like Lexi said, put a couple in there. Okay, we're good to go. Like you can learn the little intricacies that like Vader, he licks his lips. He's going to get reactive, right? So now I can take steps to use my communication, use my tools, so that now we're building good repetitions. You know what I'm saying? But that learning your dog to that level comes through putting in the work, thousands of repetitions.
Gotta be dedicated.
Just like our training handbook says to all of our alumni, experiences build trust. So how do you establish that trust? You just go through experiences with your dog, and that could be in your neighborhood, could be in your house, could be at the park, could be at alumni group class, could be at the farmer's market, But you have to be exposed to these environments in order to detect the slight intricate differences in your dog's communication styles in these scenarios, to be able to understand what does this mean? What does that mean? My dog wags his tail in this manner. Well, it might mean friendliness. My dog wags his tail in that manner. Oh, he's amped up. He's about to react at that thing. Yeah. Or he's about to chase that thing. You know what I'm saying?
You have to go through it.
Yeah.
A lot of people I'd see, even when they come to us, previous situations that have been deemed like traumatic towards them, like hardcore reactivity, maybe biting another dog, biting a person, things like that. Even when they get back from training, they try to shy away from it. And so I always say, if you don't work through it, you're not going to overcome it. So that experience thing comes into play there as well.
Yeah.
Lexi brought up babies. There's too many times I see on social media people walking their baby up to their dog, and you see your new baby, shoving the baby in the dog's face. I'm like, what are these people thinking?
That's a cringe moment for me.
You know what I'm saying?
Oh no.
So we've talked about babies on a podcast before, but again, going back to misunderstanding the dog, or maybe trusting the dog too much when it hasn't been built up. I got a strict rule, and I was just talking to somebody about this yesterday that's about to have a baby. I'll bring that baby into the house. That baby's off limits 100% for a long time. I'm talking about months. The dog's not going to be having contact with that baby. That way the dog understands the boundary of the baby. And then as development continues on, I will probably start to incorporate them in things together, not letting the dog just have free access to the baby, not letting the baby have free access to the dog, which training can help me build up those boundaries. But it's going to take a while for me to establish trust that, okay, my dog and my baby are actually good to each other, or they're good with each other. Because some dogs, if you've ever had a baby or a child, or if you've been around them, or if you've observed them, they're unpredictable. A baby gets frustrated, they start slapping things and grabbing things and screaming and going crazy.
Puking,
pooping. All the above. And so, like, if your dog is the closest thing to your baby when they have a meltdown, and now your dog's being grabbed, the eyes are being poked, or sometimes babies are just curious and they just poke things and grab things, shove a finger up a nose,
Or up other ends.
So dogs, not like, just like you would not like that. I wouldn't like if a baby came up to me and just started poking me, pinching me, prodding me, slapping me, whatever. Like, obviously I'll play with my kids and that's different. But if I'm just sitting there, like, let's say I'm just sitting in my living room and a kid just comes up and starts poking me, prodding me, pinching me, slapping me, I'm not going to be happy. I'm like, what the hell? I'm just sitting here.
Yeah.
So imagine a dog in that scenario. Yeah. And some dogs are different than others, but some dogs may be like, what the hell? Correct the human, right? They correct the baby because they're like, you need to stop that, right? And now the dog
and that is their way of communicating, right? They can't go, hey man, back off, like we can.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Exactly. Now, what we want to do in training is try to teach the dog how to make good decisions.
Right.
If you're uncomfortable, you can get up, you can walk away, right? In most circumstances, you can go somewhere where the baby cannot access, and that means we have to set up our house that allows our dog to do that.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? But again, we have too many scenarios of people not doing that, trusting their dog, right? And it's not the dog's fault. It's the owner's and the parents' fault. It's not the baby's fault. It's the parents' fault, because the dog's misunderstood. The scenario's misunderstood. We're letting too much go on. We got to have oversight. We got to have structure. When you add a child into the mix, the whole mix changes dramatically. Your time changes. Your stress level as a parent changes, and a dog owner changes, right? Because now you have more things you have to accomplish in your 24-hour day, which is ticking away. You know what I'm saying? Whether you can't freeze time. It's happening. You know what I'm saying? So you got to learn how to adapt and adjust. And again, I'm not trying to say you have to sign up with us or anything. I'm just saying a dog trainer can help you think about things to structure your life or your daily routine a little bit differently, where you can be balanced and you can fulfill your needs, you can fulfill your child's needs, and you can fulfill your dog's needs. Yep. You know what I'm saying? So, we're just, for us, we try to give you things to consider. Me and Chris, both of us have kids, so we have that direct experience ourselves trying to handle all of that. You know what I'm saying? But things can be done, and we adjust protocol. We don't have like a protocol for everybody. It's like it adjusts to you and your situation specifically, and your dog specifically. I was just talking to someone the other day in a consultation, for example. She's like, hey, the only things I care about are I want to walk good on a leash, I want to come command, and I want them to stop barking at other dogs when we walk. Cool. So we went through how to do that. You don't need all the other stuff. You need these 3 things. This is your focus. Everything else is fine. You know what I'm saying? So same thing with having your dog in your house with your kid. As priorities change, because now you have a kid in the house, you may have to adjust your physical exercise. You may have to get a treadmill so you can put your dog on a treadmill and let them walk while you're feeding your baby. It's just one example of, instead of doing a morning walk, maybe your dog's on the treadmill in the morning while you're feeding your baby.
Maybe it's as simple as just a kennel. You know what I'm saying?
Kennel.
Like, hey,
definitely.
just put him in the kennel while the baby's
have
crawling
a management
around.
Tool.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and help your dog to be comfortable in there.
Yeah.
My dog's like, if the kids are going crazy, they love going to their kennels. Yeah. They want to get away from them.
I'm like, let me scoot over. Scoot over.
I was about to ask.
So setting up different things, based on your needs, your dog, but you got to have an open mind and understand that, hey, my dog may not be comfortable around my kid 100% of the time. That's okay. Mm-hmm. Let me help set up a management and a structure that's going to fulfill everyone's needs. But not trusting your dog too much. Oh, the dog walked up to the kid. He's wagging his tail. He looked happy. Well, was the tail up and curled over wagging? Was the tail horizontal and wagging? Was the tail low and wagging? Was it curled and wagging? Like, all these different factors play a role with different dogs too. You know what I'm saying? So if the tail is up and wagging, the dog's aroused, which means he may see your child as a prey item. I don't know. I'm not there to actually observe it. I don't really know your dog, you know?
Yeah.
So all these different things have to be taken into account for the different scenarios and situations.
Yeah.
So I'm going to start bringing this horse down. But are there any other thoughts on those things?
Just one last thing. So you mentioned experiences build trust. You got to make sure you're having the right experiences too. You know what I'm saying? So like the wrong experiences can degrade trust
and
right?
build bad habits.
And build bad habits. So like in this situation that this dog hurt this child, you know what I mean? We don't know. There could have been other experiences where somebody's having too much trust and a kid's getting in the dog's face, and maybe you get away with like, oh, it's fine. My kid's been doing it for forever, but you're not picking up on those subtle cues where your dog's uncomfortable, right? And then the dog gets to a point where nobody's going to do anything about this. I'm going to do something about this, right? And so that kind of just goes into everything that we've been talking about. So we don't need to hash it out, but just keep that in mind that like just because it didn't happen that one time, you could be having a bad experience, or your dog could be having a bad experience. They're feeling uncomfortable. You're not there to be an effective pack leader, so they take matters into their own hands, and that's where these incidents kind of happen. So keep that in mind as well.
That's a good point. Good point, because like you said, your dog, you know, your dog is okay. Like, it's not reacting, snapping at things. So you think it's okay, but do you really know your dog's body language?
Yeah.
Your dog's probably could be uncomfortable. A lot of times a stiff dog, you know, dogs will go stiff if they don't really like something. In general, again, it's going to depend on the dog, but they go stiff. That dog's probably not having a good time. And if you're forcing an interaction upon your dog from a child or a stranger or whatever, you're actually giving your dog a bad experience. And as time goes on, they just compile to where the dog's like, you know what, I'm so done with this. I don't want this anymore. So then they start reacting, or they try to correct people or something like that. You know,
Which, I mean, I think we can all relate. Like, think about a time where you've been frustrated and you just tolerate something. You're like, well, whatever. Finally, you're like, you know what? I'm not taking this anymore.
Yeah.
I'm saying something, right?
Yeah.
And that's what's happening with your dog.
Yeah, exactly. So, any other thoughts? Ben? Yeah, you got a thought, Ben? What do you got? Here we go. We got Ben on the thought train.
Yeah, I'll just input real quick. I've talked about it before with Chad. You know, maybe you get a dog that you didn't want. You know, I got two energetic pit bulls. One is younger than the other, about 2 years difference. But when I first got her and I was teaching her all the ropes of training and everything like that and just doing daily life, I quickly realized that this dog had a lot of energy, more than my other dog. And I was like, this is not what I want. You know, like,
Got more than you bargained for.
way more. And the dogs give me a hard time. You know, a lot of rough nights with the potty training. You know, that was my first time having to do that. And I was like, you know, a lot of times I was like, man, I just wish I didn't get this dog. You know, and I'm like, but would tell myself like, hey, like, I decided to get a second dog. You know what I'm saying? I decided to get a pit bull. You know, pit bulls have more energy than other dogs. You know, so I'm going to take the responsibility of giving the dog what they need, you know what I'm saying? Because it's not fair to the dog, especially to, you know, your own dog. So it's like, in my head, it's like, it's not fair to my own dog that I took into my house, and I'm not going to keep her in the kennel all the time because she pisses me off, you know what I'm saying? Because of how much energy she has. And, you know, stuff like that, and having the extra responsibilities of having to deal with that. You know what I'm saying? Do the extra training. Got to put the extra hour or more in for the walks and stuff like that. You know, so for people who are rehoming their dogs just because they're way high energetic or whatever, not the dog you wanted to do, I mean, like, you know, suck it up. Like, I mean, it sounds like harsh, but like, suck it up, do training and stuff with them, or like try and take it to the next level, try and really connect with that dog. And like over time, as you work with the dog, this is like from my own experience, like as I put more time in with Aura, that's her name, like as I did more walks with her, as I did the training, you know, I was talking to Chad a lot about the training because I was training her myself, you know what I'm saying? And you start to pick up on the small things like Kevin's been talking about, like all y'all have been talking about. Like you start to pick up on the personality traits. You know what I'm saying? You start to connect with the dog on a different level. You're putting all that extra work in, you know what I'm saying? And, you know, once you come through the fire, you know what I'm saying, of that initial, oh, this sucks, you know what I'm saying? Or like, this is way more than I thought it was going to be. Once you get through that period of time, you know, and like, what Kevin and Chris were talking about with people saying, hey, when can I take the collar off my dog, or when can I stop using it? Like that will happen, you know, like not taking the collar off, but you'll get to a certain point and you'll just like kind of realize it one day. And it's like, oh, it's like, you know, like they know what I'm thinking. They know what they need to do. I ask them to do something, they do it. Yep. You know what I'm saying? Like I got to take them for a walk. I got to put the physical work in, you know, I got to give them what they need. You know what I'm saying? And I got to learn how to manage their time efficiently. Yeah. You know, it will get to that point if you put the work in. You know what I'm saying? And by that time, you'll probably be like, man, I'm glad I didn't give this dog up. Yeah. You know, like this dog is part of my pack. You're with me. You know what I'm saying?
And that's what it's about. And it's funny. It's funny you mention that because there's a lot of times like I find that same thing. Like if we have a training dog that comes in, I'm like, dude, this is one of the hardest dogs I've had to train. I'm having to put in extra reps. I'm putting in, but like by the end of that program, your bond is like so much stronger. You know what I'm saying? So like that's every time that will pay off. So that's a good point.
That's the thing that goes alongside with the way society is right now. We have everything at our fingertips. If I'm running low on my Jocko Go Pink Mist, which I am, got to order some. It'll take me about 2 minutes to order some because it's so fast. Right. You know, especially on the Starlink. So with that being said,
here we go. Product
you know,
plug.
We want that with our dogs too. And like if you're a trainer and you're training a dog and you're like, man, this dog is just taking more time, more reps, you know, you're getting frustrated. Or if you're an owner and you're getting frustrated, it's really easy to stay on the path of frustration and try to take what you think is a hack in life or a hack in the training or the easy road, right? But you got to take a step back. You got to really think about what is actually going on. Look at yourself first, you know. Is there something that I'm doing wrong? Am I looking at something the wrong way? Take ownership of that, and then can I plan out a path forward? Which we just talked about this in our YouTube live this week. Me and Ben just did it. It is currently September 30th, and we did a YouTube live earlier this week on our YouTube channel that talked about training progressions. You know, and I talked about our standard training progression in general, but like you have to have. I want to build a mindset in people. Build your own training progression for your goal. You know, the lady that I met with this week that wants to walk on a loose leash, have a come command and not react at dogs, those are her goals. I talked to her about how you achieve those goals. You know what I'm saying? So if you're getting frustrated, take a step back, look at yourself. Am I doing something wrong? If I'm frustrated, I'm probably pushing that onto my dog. What can I change? What can I do differently? Is there a way that I can build a progression to help eliminate the frustration, but build up piece by piece, baby step at a time to meet our end goal? You know what I'm saying? And you could do that with dogs. You could do it with your kid. You could do it with a lot of different things. You know what I'm saying? But having the ability to take a step back, understand I am frustrated. I need to take a break. Okay, what's the path forward? How do I work around this frustration or avoid the frustration? And that's just going to be having a plan in place. You know what I'm saying? One thing at a time. And that's something that we will help you do. You know, we will help you come up with a plan. We talk on the phone to people all the time, you know, and they never go through training with us, and that's okay. Hopefully we help them make a plan in their head about how to achieve their goals or how to get what they need to get. You know what I'm saying? We do consultations all the time. People's houses, they don't ever sign up for training. But hopefully we had an impact on them where they can plan out a way forward, a path forward to help them meet their goal. We put content out on YouTube all the time. You don't need to sign up for training. Hopefully our content can help you plan a way forward, meet your goal. You know what I'm saying? So you're going to have to do that at times and go through the reps. You know what I'm saying? So with that, I'm going to wrap this thing up. Thank you guys for tuning in today. Appreciate you, the listener. Appreciate you guys, the dog trainers, Canine Revolution Dog Training.
We appreciate you.
And I'm glad to be here. Glad to support.
No feedback.
You know,
Yeah, it's like silence.
glad to be here. Glad to support. Appreciate you guys. And hopefully, again, you know, sometimes we may get frustrated with each other. Maybe Chris wants something done a certain way, and I want something done another way. We get frustrated. We got to take a step back, be able to see it from each other's perspectives, and baby step that out so we can both be on a common path. Even though we both speak verbal languages, he's not a dog and I'm a human. We're both humans. We speak verbal languages. I'm just using Chris as an example.
Are you sure he's
You
not
know
a
what I'm
dog?
saying?
Sometimes he smells like a dog.
Well, I do have a lot of dogs around me.
Chris smells like chickens these days. But, you know, so same thing with anything, you know what I'm saying? But appreciate you guys, appreciate our team. And if you guys want to reach out, the listener, if you want to reach out, we'd be more than happy to talk to you about your scenario, help you plan a way forward, give you our thoughts on baby steps on the way forward. We'd be more than happy if you're local to us to come over and give you our assessment about your dog in that scenario, kind of tell you what some body language is that's going on. You know what I'm saying? You can also check out our YouTube to find more content on that stuff or other podcasts as well. But if you want to, go to the link tree in the description below and get you a Good to Go shirt. That'll help you support the podcast. And that helps us keep trying to put out more content for a variety of topics. But anyway, we appreciate any and all feedback. And until next time, out.